Their benefits continue on and on. And they're so upset with the way this is going to work. It's already working now. And I'm excited about that. And here's the thing, then we heard the California and some of these other liberal groups were going to boycott Arizona. And then the next meeting came into play, and Mace Hall gave us a great day and announced that, well, not so fast. There's some things down here in Arizona we can review. With that, I'm going to give you his name, Gary Pierce, Utilities Commissioner. He's got a plan of action for us as well.
Thank you. It's good to be here. You know, I want to tell a story about my friend Russell Pierce. Russell Pierce and I served in the legislature together. I was in the House with him, and I was in the majority with in 2005 and 2006. And there was protesters, just like our friends over here, but a whole bunch of them parading over here at the Capitol, round and round and round. And I'm standing there with Russell, and they had these signs and just slandering him, Pierce. And they spelled it P-I-E-R-C-E, which is the way I spell it, not P-E-A-R-C-E. And I said, Russell, why are they protesting me? I'm not, you know, you're the one. And he thought it was great. He thought it was great that they had it wrong. Well, now, I was here last spring, this past spring, and they were protesting, but they were protesting Russell because there's another Pierce, Steve Pierce up there that spells it my way, and so they're protesting Russell, so they figured out which guy to protest. Well, on March 18th, or May 18th, just a few weeks ago, you know, the day started just like any day, and I kind of figured, you know, I'd had enough with the city of LA and their attitude about this boycott. And since Thursday of the previous week, I've been crafting in my mind and in writing things that I thought ought to be said. And we've all done that. We all get angry about stuff. We write out something, and we decide, well, okay, I've vented, and then I'll just delete this and not send it. Well, that day, I pressed send. And my whole world changed. I realized afterwards that so much of what I did is exactly what everybody else was thinking or wanted to say, and so many people told me afterwards in the interviews and the next day is, I'm yelling at the TV, yes, we need to be able to do this, you need to shut off your power. Well, that's not what I said in the letter, those of you who actually read the 19 lines in the letter. What I said was, LA, you're intermingled with us so seriously. Now, I didn't actually say that. What I said is you have power. You own generation in Arizona. You own part of Palo Verde Nuclear. You own nearly 7% of Palo Verde Nuclear. Guess what? I know personally of several utilities in this state which would love to own that generation, that baseload generation, which is cheap. We'd love to have it, especially now. It's not hot right now, but it's going to get hot soon. And we have to buy power out in the open market in the summer to meet our peak load in Arizona. So I knew that if they had the courage of conviction, they would do it. Well, I also knew that they didn't have the courage of conviction, that it was political. And let me tell you why it was political. The city of LA had a city councilwoman running for lieutenant governor, Councilwoman Hahn. She's running for governor against Gavin Newsom in San Francisco. All this was politics. Which one of them could pass a resolution on this hot topic against Arizona and scoop up votes? That's what it was about. It was a horrible thing for them to do. Horrible thing for them to do to their neighbor. So I just called them out on the energy part. 24%, nearly 25% of their energy comes from generation that is produced in Arizona. They use our water to produce it. In some cases, they produce NOx and SOx emissions to produce it, and I think we're good neighbors in doing that. Well, that was the point of the conversation. But you know what's deeper than that? The city of LA in 1995, when I was a county supervisor down in Yuma County, we sited a landfill for a private company, and guess who their contract was that was going to bring garbage from the city of LA. They're going to bring garbage 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, hauling it to this landfill 40 miles on our side of the border. Well, LA is intertwined in that. Their sludge comes here, 60 semi-trucks a day of sludge. You know what sludge is? It's that stuff at the bottom of the sewer after the moisture is extracted. They scoop it up, they treat it, and they bring it to Arizona. It's now fertilizer and it's safe. And we take it. So that's one of the contracts they don't want to get rid of, and all those contracts they don't. So my letter was calling out their hypocrisy and calling them out for their actions, and that was the sum total of it. But it was great to be able to do it. I didn't say we could turn off the power. I said they can turn off their own power if they had courage and conviction. And of course, that was the point of it. So I want to thank you all for coming out. My issue is that boycotts are bad. You don't boycott your neighbors. Those welfares, those economic warfare between your neighbor, it doesn't work out. For instance, we are not Cuba. You're not going to embargo us for 50 or 60 years. You're going to have to deal with us at some point. The other problem I had was that the day that I was doing interviews with the LA radio stations, their mayor was in Washington, D.C. with the president of Mexico and our president, and I just couldn't figure out how, when he's taking attaboys from the president of Mexico, how he's going to come back and legitimately deal honestly with us in trying to resolve any kind of issue. It's a problem for, boy, I hear the noise off to the right. And I'm glad they can do it, because frankly, that's what we want to do when the other side is causing problems. So, I'm glad we have the First Amendment. So thank you for being here. Anyway, one last thing. Here's something that I've been talking about as I campaign, because I'm actually in a campaign this year. How you doing, Steve? I'm actually in a campaign this year. The opposition is filming this right now. It's good to have them here. But one thing that I know is this. We need leaders that, and when I was the majority whip, we needed folks not just that would stand and vote right with us, because that, and we want to elect people to vote right. But we've come to a different era in this country. We need leaders, we need to elect people who will actually take the mic in hand on the floor of Congress like Steve King and start fighting, and fight hard and articulate. So when you go back to your states, and those who are voting for people here in Arizona, elect people who are going to engage. And I mean engage hard, because we're in tough times, and the only way we're going to get it back is for all of you to elect people like you who will engage in the fight.
That's right.
So, I mean,
that's what we need.
So think about that, and when you start voting for these people and picking people, make sure you know who you're voting for, and make sure they're not just a great vote, and they don't just think like you, but they're going to stand up and fight like you would and like you want them to. I had a few folks in Arizona who didn't support me in this. Now, mind you, 99% of my contact, of 7,000 contacts, was in support of the letter. But there were a few who didn't, and I couldn't figure out, either you think it's good to boycott us if you're an Arizonan, do you think it's good that the hypocrisy of LA is not countered? And what I could figure out is they just didn't want to rile up another city or something to boycott us. And I said, you know what? If we fight, they'll stop. If you lay down, they'll roll over us. And that's what's going to happen to us nationally if we don't stand and fight. So thank you for being here. It just proves you're willing to stand and fight. Again, thank you so much. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to you. And thank you so much for coming to Arizona and spending your money.
Gary Pierce, thank you so much.